A little while back, if you asked somebody, what does a Toyota Prius and a Corvette have in common? They would look at you with a blank stare. But now they can say they're both hybrids. That's right, Corvette came out with the E-Ray, which is a hybrid, making it an all-wheel drive car. This is gonna be very interesting. So I decided, hey, why not pit it against its siblings? We got the Stingray Corvette, cheap and cheerful and fast as fuck. You have the Z06, the exotic sounding, and then you have the middle child, even though they came after. Like it's the youngest, but it just feels like the middle child. E-Ray Corvette, very cool though. So let's get into the numbers and see exactly how it stacks up against its siblings. As always, we start off with the engines of these fantastic vehicles, and with the Stingray and the E-Ray, it's very similar because they both have the base engine. That is a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated pushrod V8. With the E-Ray, we have the addition of the electric motor and the battery pack. The battery pack is a 1.1 kilowatt battery pack, pretty small, which is good because it keeps down the weight, and you'll see that later on. And the motor is up front, making it all-wheel drive and producing 160 horsepower and 125 foot-pounds on its own. So we're gonna be adding those numbers to the base model. Corvette E-Ray puts down a very healthy 655 horsepower. This is compared to the standard Stingray at 495 horsepower and the Z06 that beats it out at 670 horsepower. The fact that that is naturally aspirated, not assisted by a motor or turbochargers is, I love it. It's something to behold. The E-Ray does take it though when it comes to the torque. With the Torquey Boy in the front, we come out at 5,000, that would be awesome. Wouldn't that be crazy? Come out at 595 foot-pounds versus the base miles 470 and the Z06's 460. So surprise, surprise, the flat plane crank comes in last when it comes to torque. It does not come in last, but second when it comes to weight. First is the Stingray. At 3,647, it is the lightest version of the C8 that you can get. The Z06 is at 3,660 pounds, making it the second. And the heaviest is obviously the E-Ray at 3,966 pounds. A good 300 pounds heavier than the Z06, but still a good weight when it comes to a hybrid car. We know those batteries are heavy as well as the electric motors. So good on Chevy to keeping it down as much as possible. Peak horsepower is made at 6,550 RPM for both the E-Ray and the Stingray, while it's made at that beautiful 8,400 RPM for the Z06. The E-Ray and the Stingray does beat out the Z06 when it comes to the low-end torque at 5,150 RPM for peak torque versus 6,300 RPM for the Z06 for peak torque. With all these numbers to keep in track, it gets a little crazy, but here comes the most important numbers that we all care about, the 0 to 60 and the quarter mile time. Chevy says that the E-Ray can do a 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, just barely edging out the Z06 at 2.6 and only 0.3 of a second faster than the Stingray. I just want to put that in perspective because we're going to get to the price in just a second. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Quarter mile time, unfortunately the E-Ray has not been down a drag strip, and if it has, I don't know the time. But we'll find out the time soon enough. The Stingray though has definitely been down several drag strips, and we're talking about 11.2 seconds, zero to the end of the quarter mile. Versus the Z06, 10.5 seconds. 10.5 seconds. I love that. I want to put that in perspective. I always use this because whenever you hear about the drag strip, at least for me, one of the standard, manufactured cars that is the king is the Porsche 911 Turbo S. That thing is insane. It goes down the drag strip in like 10.1 seconds, but it's turbocharged. It has it in the name. This is naturally aspirated and does it in 10.5 seconds. Throw on a turbocharger on that boy and you're in the nines. That's insane. Price wise, this is where it gets a little muddy for me. I'm just gonna be honest. E-Ray comes in at $104,000 starting price. Okay, this is why it gets a little money, because that's almost $40,000 more than the base Stingray. Yes, you do get a lot of components and technology and more horsepower, more torque, a little bit heavier, and a faster 0 to 60 time, most likely is faster quarter-mile time as well. But is it really worth $40,000 more? I have a hard time swallowing that pill, because what would $40,000 of traditional modifications get you for the Stingray? Now, if you guys know cars, you know Amelia. She went ahead and twin turbocharged her C8, and she's doing the exact same thing when it comes to the Z06. So there are some troubles when it comes to cracking the ECU back in the day. I don't know if it's gotten any easier, but if you're able to do that, you've got $40,000 to play around with. That's gonna get you really far, a lot farther than the E-Ray will. But that's my little rant over. So that leads us to the Stingray. That's a base price of $64,000, really $65,000. And the Z06 comes in at that, ooh, so good for what it is, but so expensive, $127,000 starting. Now, is it worth it? 100%. If money was no object, Z06 every day. 5.5 liter, naturally aspirated, flat plane crank. That's all I need to say. It's very simple. When it comes to money being a factor, because it always is, for half the price, you can go ahead and get a standard base Stingray and have a blast and still be only 0.2 seconds. So 0.2 of a second slower, 0 to 60, 0.2 of a second slower for half the price. God damn. I would say that money being an object, Stingray, absolutely. That's where to go every day. But E-Ray, what a fantastic idea. What an interesting concept, all-wheel drive. Now that GM has opened that door though, I will say, there's gonna be a lot of people trying to do that for their base Stingray, and I'd love to see that. If I could get my hands on a base Stingray, a C8, I am strongly considering just throwing in some batteries. Take out the trunk. Trunk, you don't really need that. The frunk, no frunk for me. It's gonna be funky with a front mounted motor. So I would go the Stingray, money considered, and the Z06 if money is not considered. And the E-Ray is like this nice little weird middle child that is fantastic and a good blueprint. Maybe not a good finished car for me, but that's just me. So which one would you guys have? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if you like this type of video. I think it's interesting because it's basically competing against itself. Numbers are very close, but goddamn, that Z06, there's something about that Z06. I just love it.